Uh, and there's been so much harassment on this that it's mind-boggling that people have not, to some degree, woken up, but still so many haven't. To be disabled does not just mean that you are in a wheelchair, a motorized wheelchair, a wheelchair that you push by hand. That's not the only definition. You don't need to be, someone like Dr. Stephen Hawking in order to be classified as disabled. There are many of us. I'm one of them. My husband's one of them. There are millions of other people that fit this, where we just need a little bit to enable us to get around. We just need a little bit to get things done safely, to reduce the costs that, because my husband and I are on Medicaid, would go to the taxpayers dramatically, for things like ER trips that at times they're passed off as, oh, we're being lazy, or we don't know what we're doing, when we're stupid. No. When someone who is disabled, who has issues with heat exhaustion, and who can't walk very far, lands into the hospital, into an emergency room setup, with heat exhaustion, and it might not necessarily even be that hot out, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily stupid. In many instances, it is a matter of something that there are easy ways that this can be prevented. I see no reason why in any area, in any part of the country, where the sidewalks are fully paved with, with about 3 to 4 foot wide sidewalks, where you can't have a bench that is accessible, or a seat that is publicly accessible just for anyone to sit down who needs it. To my mind's eye, it should come with preferential treatment for those with disabilities. But frankly, senior, disabled, if you really are exhausted, you should be able to sit down. These should be available every quarter mile in a sidewalk in every part of this country. Frankly, if that existed, my husband would have not had to go to the ER 3 or 4 times. Because we couldn't afford to go into a restaurant and spend, minimum $2, if not really $3 or $4, before being possibly questioned and shoot out the door. Neither of us could afford that. We couldn't afford it as a unit. And frankly, we shouldn't be forced to need to spend money in order to get to sit down in a big city. I don't understand why this should even be the case to begin with. But it commonly is. And, as I'm planning a march, again, it comes up. Many buses, even if they're labeled as they're accessible, that means that they come with one or more devices that are meant to help wheelchairs get onto and off the bus. It doesn't even mean that those devices are working. It just means that, at the very least, either the bus was made with it or that it was retrofitted. It doesn't actually mean that the full spectrum of people with different disabilities can get onto and off the bus safely at all. It just means that one aspect is covered. I walk around with joint braces. Currently I'm not wearing my hand ones, but many times I am, especially when I have my cane and I'm walking. I have ones for my knees. I constantly wear the ones for my ankles. Hips are also braced up. Elbows are at least at times braced up, although that's a little bit rare, but I often, especially for shopping trips, I do that as well. because my condition means that all of my joints act, the cartilage acts like rubber bands, so they can slide in and out of socket whenever they darn well please with normal movement. So, and I have issues with vertigo as well. So, and a couple of spinal things. So, it's not like I don't have medical issues. I do. But at the same time, I can actually walk 4 or 5 miles if the ground is reasonable, mainly if the weather is reasonable. Not too hot, not too cold. Snow or rain, that messes me up too. But again, no snow, no rain, barometric pressure's not taking a dive, low humidity, if it's low humidity, which is why I'm actually planning on moving, I might very well be able to walk 10 miles. So the muscles are quite strong, at least in my legs, but my hands are a completely other story, which is why most of the time I make sure that I don't try, when I'm trying to navigate buses, I can never sit towards the middle or towards the back of the bus for fear. And I mean, again, I will if I have to, but after that, if I have to try to get off the middle door of the bus, that's going to be a major problem, because most of them, at least in this area, you have to try and push it open physically, unless I not only lean against with my body weight, but actually throw myself completely against the door, my entire body weight to nearly land on the concrete outside. Will that door manage to open for me without someone else helping? Stairs on buses, especially the taller the bus, the worse it is. And that's another thing. I'm not going to be able to do it. Unsteady stairs, narrow ones, apart from the mobility issues, with my joint braces combined to make them a little bit bigger, I wear size women's 11. So, women's 11, men's 10 shoes. So those little narrow steps that are meant for a size 5 foot to fully fit on, not gonna help me. Might very well make me fall into the bus driver. So, which has happened once or twice. So again, people have to realize that with all of the other people out there that just have issues with vertigo, that just have issues with their spinal column, but can otherwise walk, or have just issues, major league with arthritis, okay? But again, they can still walk just fine, or at least a sizable degree. The biggest thing, and the most common need, is for publicly available seats, benches, ideally covered, but frankly, even if they weren't covered, just a bench, or in places where you might not, where it's not quite completely paved, a flat rock, a flat boulder. I have no issues, especially when I'm hiking. I actually do enjoy hiking. I have no issue sitting on a boulder. Neither does my beloved husband with all of his medical issues. Sitting on a flat rock, on a large flat rock, perfectly fine. But in a concrete jungle, so to speak, like either like is most of the 5 boroughs of New York City, or in Washington D.C., or in any other major metropolitan area, public seating to me is a major way to grant, and it's not a super expensive one to my mind's eye, especially when you weigh that against all of the ER costs and all of the medical costs that you're saving, and all of the lawsuits that you're thusly saving for people who have the money and or the impetus to sue. for this nonsense. It's an imperative um, for a life of dignity, a life of mobility. And it's something that I am going to be stressing over and over again.